Tell her the truth, Thomas. Look at her. She has your eyes. The room falls silent. Hundreds of guests freeze mid-toast as one woman's voice slices through the polite southern drawl and wedding music. A child stands trembling, eyes wide with questions she was never supposed to ask. He stands there cornered by the truth he paid to bury. She won't let him lie this time. This is the moment everything unravels. The perfect family image, shattered in front of everyone who matters most. And it's only the beginning of a story about betrayal, class, and the lengths people will go to keep secrets buried. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you'll never miss our next story, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Stick around to the very end. You'll want to know exactly how this wedding turns into a reckoning no one can forget. Maria wiped her hands on her apron, grease and sweat streaking faded blue cotton. Dixie's diner buzzed with the lunch rush. Waitresses called orders, the fryers hissed, and a radio crackled with country music. She moved like a machine, refilling coffee, grabbing plates, nodding at polite small talk, but her mind churned. It was another day just like the one before it, and she told herself that was good, predictable, safe. But then she saw the envelope. It sat on the counter next to the register, a heavy white cardstock with raised gold lettering. It didn't belong in Dixie's diner. It didn't belong in her life. Betty, her best friend and the diner's lead cook, jerked her chin at it through the pass window. "Maria, some fancy guy dropped that off. Said it's for you." Maria felt her gut twist. She wiped her palms again, refusing to touch it right away. The envelope glowed against the chipped formica, all class and wealth and old money arrogance. She heard the old voices in her head. "You don't belong here. You never did." "Girl, you okay?" Betty's voice cut through the noise. Maria flinched. She forced a smile. "Yeah, I'm fine." Betty didn't buy it. She rarely did. The older woman's hair was tied in a tight gray bun, sweat shining on her dark skin as she leaned in. "Want me to read it for you? Burn it? Whatever you want, sugar." Maria shook her head. She picked it up. It felt too heavy, too deliberate. She traced the Hartford family crest pressed in wax on the flap. Memory stabbed through her ribs. Thomas's laugh, the smell of bourbon on his breath, his promises, his betrayal. "Maria?" Betty again, softer now, worried. Maria swallowed hard. "I'll read it at home." But she couldn't wait. Not really. She tore the envelope open with shaking fingers. The paper inside was thick, creamy, and expensive. It smelled like roses and money. The words were handwritten in elegant loops. "The Hartford family cordially invites you and your daughter, Emma Thompson, to celebrate the marriage of Dylan Hartford to Annabelle Prescott at Hartford Estate in Charleston." Her vision blurred. She saw only Emma Thompson in black ink. They'd written her daughter's name. Emma's name didn't belong on their invitations. A roar filled Maria's ears. She crumpled the invitation, but her fingers wouldn't finish the job. She smoothed it again. She couldn't destroy it because it was real. It meant they knew. Or worse, they wanted to remind her. They wanted to show her she hadn't beaten them. She'd just run away. Betty wiped her hands and stepped out from the kitchen, lowering her voice. "You don't have to go, you know. You owe those people nothing." Maria didn't answer. She forced the letter into her apron pocket and went back to work, jaw tight. Every clang of dishes, every order barked felt like an insult. She couldn't focus. Her head was filled with laughter that wasn't here, voices that weren't hers, and that house with the massive columns and green lawns where she'd once tried to fit in, where they'd made sure she'd never belong. That night she sat at the wobbly kitchen table of her tiny apartment. The linoleum floor was cracked. The overhead bulb flickered every time the neighbor flushed their toilet. Emma sat across from her, homework spread out in a careful grid of notebooks and pencils. She was small for her age but sharp-eyed, her hair in a messy ponytail. She twisted when she was nervous. Maria watched her daughter trace numbers, biting her lip in concentration. The girl had Thomas's eyes, not just the color, amber flecked with green, but the shape, the way they flashed when she was angry, the way they softened when she was scared. Maria squeezed the invitation in her lap. She'd read it a dozen times today. Every time it felt like swallowing glass. She hadn't told Emma. She didn't know how. But now the words tumbled out. "Em," she began, voice cracking. Her daughter looked up, immediately alert. "What's wrong?" Maria hesitated. She saw herself reflected in Emma's eyes. Tired, lined, scared. She swallowed hard. "We got invited to a wedding." Emma's eyes lit up. She put down her pencil. "A wedding? Who? Someone from work?" Maria shook her head. She laid the invitation flat on the table. Emma's fingers darted out to grab it before Maria could stop her. She read, lips moving. "Hartford Estate." Her voice faltered over the words. She looked up, brow furrowing. "Hartford, like your name before you changed it." Maria's mouth went dry. She wanted to lie. It would be so easy. But Emma deserved more. She deserved everything. "It's their family," Maria whispered. Your father's family." Emma blinked. The words seemed to take a moment to sink in. She wasn't stupid. She was 12 and smart in ways Maria wished she wasn't. "So, we're invited to his son's wedding? His other kid?" Maria winced. Emma pushed the invitation back at her. "Why would they invite us?" Maria pressed her lips together. The room felt too small. The walls closed in. She took a breath, fighting for calm. "I don't know. I don't know what they want." Emma stared at her mother. Her face hardened in a way that made Maria's heart ache. "I want to go." Maria recoiled. "No!" Emma slammed her fist on the table. The sound was too loud in the small space. "Yes, I want to see them. I want to see him." Maria felt hot tears burn her eyes. "Emma, no. They're not good people." Emma's eyes filled up too, but she didn't cry. She just shook her head. "Then I want to see for myself." Maria tried to speak. Nothing came. She closed her eyes, fighting the memory of Thomas's face as he handed her this check. $50,000 to vanish. $50,000 for her silence while she was pregnant with his child. Maria had taken it. She'd taken it because she had no choice. Betty's words echoed in her mind. "You don't have to go." But Emma deserved the truth, even if it hurt, especially if it hurt. Maria wiped her tears with the back of her hand, took a deep breath, and opened her eyes. "Okay," she whispered. "We'll go." Emma's shoulders sagged in relief. For the first time that night, she smiled. Later, Maria sat alone on the rusting fire escape outside their apartment, cigarette glowing red in the dark. She didn't smoke often, only when the nightmares were too strong. She felt the wind off the Gulf, warm and sticky, pressing against her skin. She watched the cars below, the blinking neon of the liquor store across the street. She thought of Charleston, of that estate, of Catherine's cold blue eyes, of Thomas's hands on hers, pleading with her to understand before shoving her away forever. She wondered if he'd recognize Emma on sight. She wondered if he'd pretend he didn't know. She wanted to scream. She wanted to vomit, but she smoked instead. In the morning, she packed the only nice dress she had. It was black. Not exactly wedding appropriate, but it was clean and it fit. She told Emma to choose something nice too. The girl ran her fingers over her two dresses and chose the white one with the small yellow flowers. It was too small in the shoulders. Maria sighed but didn't say anything. They sat on the edge of the old couch staring at their single suitcase. Emma's voice was quiet. "Will he talk to me?" Maria closed her eyes. "I don't know. Will he even look at me?" Maria let out a slow, shuddering breath. "He'll have to." Emma didn't say anything more. She just sat there, twisting her fingers in her lap. That afternoon, they walked to the diner so Maria could tell Betty. The kitchen was hot, heavy with the smell of frying chicken and old coffee. Betty listened, arms folded over her apron, eyes sharp. "Don't you let them walk all over you," she said. "Don't you dare?" Maria nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "You stand up straight in that fancy house. Make them see you. Make them see her." Maria's voice cracked. "I'm scared, Betty." Betty's hand came down hard on her shoulder, squeezing. "Good. Means you're thinking. Means you'll be ready." Maria sniffed, fighting tears. "You're the only reason I'm still sane." Betty smiled, lines at her eyes deepening. "Then get out of here before I cry too." That night, Maria tucked Emma into their narrow bed, and Maria rushed the girl's hair back from her forehead. Emma's eyes fluttered shut, but her mouth moved. "Mama," she whispered, "promise me you'll tell me everything." "Someday," Maria's voice broke. "I promise." She watched her daughter sleep. She felt the dread pressing on her chest. But she would go. She would face them all, because the truth had a price, but so did silence, and she was done paying for it. The road narrowed as Maria's car crossed into Charleston County. Dust clung to the windows. The late afternoon sun burned orange behind draping Spanish moss, turning every bend into a tunnel of green and gold that felt both beautiful and suffocating. She gripped the wheel so tightly that her knuckles shone white. Beside her, Emma pressed her nose to the window, eyes wide, soaking in every old plantation fence and horse pasture. The girl had dressed herself carefully in her white dress with little yellow flowers, the one that was a size too small, but made her feel grown up. Her hair was brushed back with painstaking neatness. Maria had even managed a crooked braid, but nothing felt neat inside the car. Maria's stomach churned. She forced herself to focus on the road, every mile bringing them closer to the Hartford estate, closer to the people who had exiled her, who had decided Emma shouldn't even exist. Emma's voice cut through the silence. "Mama, do you think they'll like us?" Maria nearly flinched. She couldn't look at Emma. Her eyes stayed on the cracked asphalt. "It's not about them liking us. But we're family." Maria's grip tightened. She felt the weight of every lie she'd told. She didn't want to crush Emma's hope, but she refused to feed it either. "They're strangers," Maria managed. "That's all they are." Emma didn't respond. She just twisted her braid in her fingers. The GPS beeped. "Turn left onto Hartford Lane." Maria slowed. The turn was marked by two enormous brick pillars topped with iron lanterns. A wrought iron arch stretched between them, reading Hartford Estate in curling letters. Maria felt sweat trickle down her back. She turned onto the lane. The gravel crunched under the tires, sending dust in pale spirals behind them. The driveway curved through ancient oak trees, their branches tangled overhead, casting long, crawling shadows. Maria felt like she was driving into a grave. They broke out of the trees into open land. The house appeared at the end of the drive, pale and enormous in the lowering sun. White columns lined the wraparound porch. French windows gleamed. The front lawn was an ocean of manicured green, broken by hydrangeas so big they looked fake. Cars were parked everywhere. Shiny black SUVs, vintage convertibles, rentals with out-of-state plates. Maria recognized wealth that didn't need to shout but couldn't help showing off. She pulled in slowly, stopping near a line of catering trucks. For a moment she just sat there, the engine running. Emma fidgeted. "Are we here?" Maria didn't answer. She just killed the ignition. Silence fell heavy. She realized she was shaking. Emma put a small hand on her mother's arm. "Mama?" Maria looked at her daughter. Looked. Saw the freckles dusting her nose. The way her eyes, Thomas's eyes, reflected worry and stubbornness. Maria forced herself to breathe. "Yes," she said hoarsely. "We're here." She pushed open the door. Dust rose around her worn shoes as she stepped onto the gravel. She straightened her second-hand black dress, tugging at the waist. It was clean. That was all she cared about. She walked around to help Emma out. The girl tried to carry her small backpack, but Maria took it from her, slinging it over her shoulder. They walked side by side toward the house. The closer they got, the more they felt the eyes. Caterers paused, watching them pass. A valet lifted an eyebrow. A group of guests in pastel suits and dresses lowered their champagne flutes and murmured. Maria held her head high. She told herself she would not flinch. She would not apologize for existing. Emma clutched her mother's hand, wide-eyed. The porch was crowded. White lights curled around the columns. A quartet played soft jazz. Voices buzzed like bees, fake and polite. Then the murmuring shifted. Faces turned. Conversation slowed. Maria felt it. The wave of recognition, disgust, pity. One woman in a pink silk dress didn't bother to whisper. "My God, she came." Maria's cheeks burned. She didn't look at the woman. She kept moving. At the door, a man with a clipboard tried to smile. Invitation, please. Maria didn't hand it over. She stared at him until he shifted, suddenly aware of the hush behind him. He stepped aside. Inside, the air was cooler but no less suffocating. Chandeliers glittered above dark wood floors polished to a mirror. The smell of roses mixed with expensive cologne. Maria felt dirt under her nails even though she'd scrubbed them raw. Emma pressed closer. It's pretty. Maria couldn't answer. A voice sliced through the chatter. Maria. Maria turned. Catherine Hartford stood at the foot of the grand staircase. Her blonde hair was twisted into an elegant chignon. Her pale blue dress matched her eyes, icy and precise. Diamonds winked at her throat. She looked like every Southern debutante Maria had ever been told she could never be. Catherine's smile was practiced, warm enough to fool someone who didn't know better, but her eyes locked on Emma with something like fear. Welcome, Catherine said, voice dripping honey. We're so glad you could join us. Maria didn't smile. I'm sure you are. Catherine's eyes flicked to the guests watching, hungry for a show. She stepped forward, lowering her voice. This isn't the place for confrontations. Don't embarrass yourself. Maria tilted her head. I think you mean don't embarrass you. Catherine's jaw tightened. She turned her gaze to Emma. She forced a smile. And this must be Emma. My goodness, she's grown. Maria felt Emma stiffen beside her. She squeezed the girl's hand. Emma looked at Catherine with open suspicion. Do I know you? Catherine blinked. The crowd hushed further. Maria felt savage satisfaction at Catherine's stumble. Catherine's lips thinned. We're old friends of your mother. Maria's voice was ice. Something like that. A new voice cut in. Maria. Maria turned again. Thomas Hartford stood on the landing above them. 55, silver at his temples. He wore a tailored suit that cost more than Maria made in a month. He held a glass of bourbon, but his hand shook just enough to spill a drop. His eyes fell on Emma, and Maria watched the color drain from his face. Emma saw it too. She didn't understand it yet, but she felt it. She shrank against Maria. Thomas opened his mouth, but no words came. Maria's heart thundered. She forced herself to hold his gaze. She would not look away. Catherine recovered first. Thomas, come greet our guests. Thomas swallowed hard. He descended slowly, eyes never leaving Emma's. Maria felt the world narrows to the three of them. She could hear nothing but her blood in her ears. Thomas stopped in front of them. His voice was ragged. Maria. Maria didn't blink. Thomas. His eyes dropped to Emma. Emma blinked up at him, confused, curious. Are you him? Thomas flinched as she struck him. Maria felt her chest tighten with rage and something worse. Grief. Catherine's hand fell on Thomas's arm like a leash. We have guests. Save this for later. Maria bristled, but Emma's small fingers dug into her palm. She felt her daughter's terror. Maria swallowed it all. The insults, the rage, the humiliation. She forced her voice to be calm. We're here for Dylan. Thomas opened his mouth again, but Catherine stepped in front of him. Of course, he'll be thrilled. This way. She turned sharply, guiding them down the hall like they were stray dogs to be herded out of sight. Maria felt Emma trembling beside her. She squeezed her hand tighter. They walked past walls lined with portraits. Hartford's ancestors glared down in oil paint. Maria felt every eye, every judgment. She kept walking, because she would not turn back. Not now, not ever. The music in the reception hall was too polished. The jazz quartet played slow, syrupy notes that stuck to Maria's skin like sweat. She held Emma's hand so tightly her fingers ached, but she didn't let go. Chandeliers cast sharp, accusing light over the vast room. The crowd parted around them as if they were a stain on the marble. Women in pastel dresses whispered behind manicured hands. Men in tailored suits gave curt nods, eyes narrowing with judgment. Maria felt every gaze like a slap. Emma's fingers trembled in hers. The girl's eyes darted from face to face. She was trying to be brave. Maria squeezed harder. Ahead of them, Catherine led with her chin up, steps graceful and precise. She didn't look back once. It was a silent command. Follow, but don't speak. Maria scanned the walls. Oil portraits of Hartford ancestors glowered from gilt frames. Each face was pale, imperious, carved in shadow and candlelight. She remembered standing in this room years ago in a cheap dress Thomas bought her, pretending she belonged. Remembered the way they had eyed her like livestock at auction. A flash of memory twisted her gut. Dylan, a small boy in suspenders, running to her, calling her mama. She had loved him like he was hers. Now he was getting married, and she was a ghost at his feast. Catherine stopped at the ballroom doors, turning just enough that Maria saw her profile. Tight, cold, brittle. She pushed the door open without a word. Inside, applause thundered as the newlyweds entered from the opposite side. Dylan held Annabelle's hand. They were beautiful, young, glowing with money and certainty. Maria felt Emma stiffen, watching them. He's the one getting married, Emma whispered. Maria nodded. Her voice wouldn't work. Dylan turned, his eyes scanning the room. He froze when he saw them. Maria saw recognition flicker. His mouth opened just a hair before Catherine caught his gaze. She tilted her head, a silent command. Dylan looked away. Maria's heart twisted. Emma didn't miss it. "He knows you," she hissed. Maria swallowed. "Yes." The crowd moved again, clustering around the bride and groom. Maria felt the current push her and Emma to the edge of the room, near the buffet table that gleamed with crystal and silver. She heard the laughter, the polite congratulations. The southern drawls drip honey over poison. Emma's voice trembled. "Why are they looking at us like that?" Maria bent down. Her voice was low, hard. "Because they want us to feel small. Don't let them." Emma's lip quivered. She blinked hard, fighting tears. Maria felt rage coil in her gut. A champagne flute clinked. The music lowered. Dylan raised a hand. "Thank you all for coming," he began, voice steady, trained. Maria heard the Hartford in him, polished, commanding. She used to wipe his mouth with a napkin when he was 5. Emma pulled at her hand. "Mama, why does he look like he hates us?" Maria swallowed the truth. "He doesn't. He's scared." Emma didn't understand. She didn't know the rules here. Applause broke out again. Maria forced herself to clap once, mechanically. Then a voice cut through it all. "Well, look who finally decided to show." Margaret, Catherine's sister, approached with a flute of rosé. Her smile was venomous. She was older than Catherine, her hair bleached brittle blonde, and her makeup thick enough to crack. She smelled of gardenias and malice. Maria straightened. "Hello, Margaret." Margaret didn't bother hiding her contempt. She eyed Emma like she was dirt on her heel. My, she's certainly something." Maria's voice sharpened. "Careful," Margaret laughed. "Oh, relax. We're all family here, sort of." She sipped. "Though I heard you weren't invited, Catherine just thought it would be charitable to let you see what you missed out on." Maria's nails dug into her palm. She forced herself to smile. "Tell Catherine thanks for the invitation." Margaret's eyes glittered. "She's too kind. I think you should have stayed in whatever hole you crawled into." Emma's breath hitched. Maria saw red. She stepped forward. "Say one more thing about us." Margaret's lip curled. She lifted her glass. "Cheers, sweetheart. Enjoy the show." She sauntered away. Maria was shaking. Emma's eyes were huge. "Mama, why?" Maria crouched, grabbing her shoulders. "Listen to me. Don't you dare cry. Don't you let them see you cry. You stand tall. You look them in the eye." Emma swallowed. "But I don't understand what's happening." Maria's voice cracked. "I know, and I'm sorry, but you're mine, and you don't ever bow to them." Emma's eyes shone with tears she refused to let fall. She nodded once. Maria stood. She scanned the room, daring anyone to speak. She saw Thomas near the fireplace, bourbon in hand. He wasn't talking to anyone. He was watching them. Their eyes met. He flinched. Maria felt her chest tighten. She turned away before he could see her break. Catherine reappeared, gliding like a shark in silk. She smiled too widely. "Maria, Emma, enjoying yourselves?" Maria's jaw tensed. "As much as we can." Catherine leaned in, voice low. "Behave yourself. Don't ruin this for Dylan." Maria hissed back. "He deserved better than this circus." Catherine's smile didn't falter, but her eyes went dead. "You don't belong here. You never did. Don't forget that." Maria's throat closed. She wanted to scream. She wanted to slap that perfect face. But Emma's fingers dug into her hand, reminding her why she was there. She straightened. "You're right. I don't belong here. But Emma does. Whether you like it or not." Catherine's nostrils flared. She opened her mouth to retort, but a shrill voice interrupted. "Mother! There you are!" Annabelle, the bride, appeared in a swirl of lace. She was breathtaking, 24, with perfect posture and eyes that missed nothing. She saw Maria and Emma, froze for just a beat, and then pasted on a polite smile. "Hello," she said carefully. Emma blinked. "You're pretty." Annabelle's eyes softened a fraction. "Thank you, sweetheart." She glanced at Maria. Confusion flickered in her gaze. "I'm sorry, I don't think we've met." Catherine intervened. "Just old acquaintances. Nothing to worry about." Annabelle frowned. "Mother." Her voice was sharp. "I asked." Maria felt a vicious satisfaction. Catherine snapped. "Maria is an old friend of your father's." Maria let the words hang. She didn't correct them. Annabelle's eyes narrowed. She didn't miss the tension. Emma tugged at Maria's hand. "Mama, I'm tired." Maria swallowed her rage. "We'll find somewhere quiet." Catherine's voice followed them as they walked away. "Don't go too far. We wouldn't want anyone getting lost." Maria didn't look back. They found a quiet corner in the hallway outside the ballroom. The noise of the party dulled behind thick walls. Maria slid down to sit on the floor, pulling Emma into her lap. Emma didn't speak for a long time. Then she whispered, "They hate us." Maria pressed her lips to Emma's hair. "Yes." "Why?" Maria closed her eyes. Memories clawed at her. Thomas's hands on her shoulders, whispering that he loved her, that he'd protect her. Then she shoved that check into her hands. She swallowed hard. "Because I didn't come from here. Because I wouldn't stay quiet." Emma's voice was small. "I don't want to stay." Maria hugged her tighter. "We can leave. Right now." But Emma shook her head. Her eyes shone with furious determination. "No, I want to see him. I want him to tell me." Maria's heart broke. She nodded once. Emma pressed her face into Maria's neck. Maria held her daughter as the music thumped behind them. She wouldn't run. Not this time. The storm had been brewing all day. Maria smelled it in the air, thick with gardenia and rain, pressing down on the Hartford estate like a promise. Thunder rumbled somewhere far off as the party twisted itself tighter, like a snake eating its tail. She stood in the hallway with Emma, clutching the girl's small hand. She heard the laughter inside, the crystal glasses clinking. Polite applause for toasts that meant nothing. It felt obscene. Emma wouldn't look at her. The child's jaw was set, those Hartford eyes blazing with something Maria both feared and admired. "I want to talk to him," Emma said at last. Her voice was a razor. Maria felt her pulse spike. She bent down. "Emma, not here. Please, these people, they'll eat us alive." Emma didn't flinch. "Then let them watch." The words hit Maria like a slap. She swallowed hard. She remembered her voice at 20, telling Thomas she wouldn't be anyone's secret. She straightened. She brushed Emma's hair back from her face. "Fine, let's finish it." Inside, the band had shifted from jazz to something upbeat, but the tension in the room made every note feel mocking. Guests were beginning to sweat in their silk and seersucker. Waiters maneuvered with trays of bourbon and champagne, smiles frozen. At the center of it all, Dylan laughed too loudly at something Annabelle whispered in his ear. But Maria saw how often his eyes darted toward the doorway, toward them. She took Emma's hand and led her back in. The room seemed to hush around them like a living thing. Catherine turned the moment she felt the shift. She smiled widely, the snake revealing its fangs. "Oh, back so soon?" Maria didn't answer. Thomas stood at the bar. His glass was empty, fingers tapping against it. When he saw them approach, the blood drained from his face. He dropped the glass. It bounced on the carpet. Maria stopped. She let go of Emma's hand. "Go ahead," she whispered. Emma blinked at her. Her lip trembled, then she straightened. She was so small in that sea of people, but her voice carried. "Are you my father?" The room collapsed in on itself. Every voice died. Glasses hovered halfway to lips. Someone's laughter died in their throat. Thomas opened his mouth. No sound came out. Catherine froze. Her fingers dug into Dylan's arm. Dylan turned to her, confusion sharpening to horror. Emma took a step forward. Her eyes filled but didn't break. Say it. Thomas's face crumpled. He looked at Maria, pleading silently. Maria felt her heart crack, but she said nothing. Thomas licked his lips. His voice cracked. Emma, she trembled. Say it. He shook his head once. Tears pooled in his eyes. Yes, it was barely a whisper, but the whole room heard it. Emma's breath shuddered out. The tears fell, but she didn't sob. She wiped them angrily away. Why didn't you want me? Thomas's mouth opened and closed. His chest heaved. I did. Emma's voice was small and deadly. Liar! Catherine found her voice. It sliced through the silence like a scalpel. This is enough. This is obscene. Get her out. Maria felt her rage boil. She turned slowly to Catherine. Obscene, she hissed. You want obscene? Catherine's mouth twisted. I invited you here to be generous. Maria laughed, harsh and ugly. You invited me here to watch me squirm, to remind me where I stand. Well, here I am, standing. Catherine's face went white. Emma's shoulders shook. She turned on Catherine. You knew, didn't you? Catherine faltered. For the first time, her voice broke. This isn't the time. Say it, Emma screamed. Gas rippled. Annabelle dropped her bouquet. Dylan stared at his mother in horror. Catherine's lips trembled. Yes, Emma choked. You paid her. You paid Mama to go away. Catherine shook her head. Thomas, he was trying to protect your reputation, Maria finished for her. Her voice was cold as a grave. Thomas sobbed. He sobbed, shoulders shaking. Emma's voice wavered. I hate you. Thomas fell to his knees. Please, don't. Catherine stepped back like he was diseased. Maria watched him, saw the man she'd loved, the man who'd begged her to take the check, the man who'd built his life on her silence. She bent down, eye level with Emma. Look at them, she whispered. Emma did. Maria's voice cracked, but she forced it out. They don't get to define you. You hear me? You're mine. You're everything good in me. Don't let them take one more thing. Emma sobbed now. She clung to her mother. Maria stood. She faced them all. This is what your money bought, she said. Her voice carried. It cut. A child who knows she wasn't wanted. A man who destroyed his own family. A wife who thinks cruelty is power. Congratulations. Enjoy the show. The band had stopped. The waiters froze. Even the air seemed to wait. Dylan took a step forward. His face was ashen. He looked at Maria, then Emma. I didn't know, he said. It cracked. I swear, I didn't know. Maria met his eyes. She saw the boy she used to tuck in. I know, she whispered. He turned on his parents. You lied to me, my whole life. Catherine reached for him. He flinched away. Emma turned to Dylan, tears streaking her cheeks. You're my brother. His eyes filled. Yeah. He nodded hard. Yeah, you are. He opened his arms. Emma hesitated. Then she flew into them. Maria felt something break free in her chest. She let it. Catherine watched in horror. Thomas stayed on his knees. Maria turned to the room, to the wealthy guests who wouldn't meet her eyes. She spoke loud enough for them all. I'm done pretending I don't exist. She took Emma's hand. Dylan wouldn't let go. He looked at Annabelle, who gave one sharp nod. She took Catherine's arm and yanked her back. Maria, Emma, and Dylan walked out together. As they passed Thomas, he reached out. Maria! His voice was a ghost. She didn't stop. She didn't look back. Thunder cracked outside. Rain pelted the windows. They left the Hartford estate behind. The town looked different from Charleston. Maria noticed it the moment their old car rattled over the county line. The familiar road was the same cracked blacktop, the same fields of wild grass, the same scattered billboards advertising church fish fries and payday loans. But nothing felt safe anymore. Emma sat silently in the passenger seat. Her fingers dug into the seatbelt. She wouldn't look at Maria. Maria kept glancing at her. She wanted to reach over to brush the hair from her face to say, I'm sorry. But the words tasted like ash. She knew sorry wasn't enough. When they pulled up in front of their apartment, Maria killed the engine. The ticking of the cooling metal was loud in the silence. Emma didn't move. Maria spoke first. "We're home." Emma turned slowly. Her eyes were swollen from crying, but dry now. They looked old. "Is this home?" Maria felt the stab in her gut. She swallowed hard. "Yes." Emma snorted, climbing out. She slammed the door. Maria winced at the sound. She sat for a moment longer before forcing herself out. The sun was setting, painting the building in orange and red like it was on fire. They climbed the narrow stairwell, the railing rattling under Maria's hand. She pushed the door open. The stale, warm smell of their apartment hit her. She breathed it in like penance. Emma dropped her bag and went straight to their bedroom. The door clicked shut behind her. Maria didn't follow. She let her forehead rest against the chipped wood of the door. She listened for Emma's breathing, for any sobs. Nothing. She turned and slid down the wall, landing hard on the cracked linoleum. She buried her face in her hands. The memories wouldn't stop. Thomas is on his knees, Catherine's mask shattering. Dylan pulls Emma close, claiming her in front of everyone. The storm outside. The hush of the room as she'd spoken. "I'm done pretending I don't exist." She hadn't planned to say it. It had just poured out. Now it was out there. Now everyone knew. She pulled her hands away and stared at them. They shook. She clenched them into fists. A knock at the door startled her. She scrambled up, wiping her eyes. She opened it a crack. Betty stood on the landing, arms folded over her chest, hair tied back in her work bandana. Her dark eyes searched Maria's face. "Word travels fast," she said softly. Maria let out a humorless laugh. She opened the door wider. Betty walked in and glanced around. The place was a mess. Dishes in the sink, clothes draped over chairs, Emma's homework still scattered on the table where they'd left it before Charleston. Betty didn't comment. She turned to Maria. "You okay?" Maria snorted. "Do I look okay?" Betty studied her for a long moment. Then she pulled her in. Maria froze for a beat before she sagged against her, trembling. Betty held her tight. "You did it." Maria shook her head against Betty's shoulder. "I ruined everything." Betty pulled back just enough to look at her. "Bullshit. You told the truth. And don't you dare call that ruin?" Maria choked. "Emma hates me," Betty sighed. "She's 12. She's angry. She's hurt. She's got every right. But she doesn't hate you. She can't." Maria looked at the bedroom door. Her voice cracked. "I don't know how to fix this." Betty squeezed her shoulder. "You don't fix it. You live with it. You show her you're still here, that you'll always be here." Maria wiped her eyes. She nodded. Betty jerked her chin at the kitchen. "You eat anything today?" Maria huffed. "No," Betty snorted. "Figures." She moved toward the fridge, yanking it open. She frowned. "Girl, you got nothing but ketchup and a dying head of lettuce." Maria let out a strangled laugh. "Sounds about right." Betty slammed it shut. "I'm cooking. Don't argue." Maria didn't. She sank into one of the chairs, arms limp at her sides. The smell of frying onions and butter soon filled the apartment. It made Maria ache with something close to relief. The bedroom door creaked. Emma peeked out, hair a mess, eyes wary. Betty didn't miss a beat. "Hey there, princess. You hungry?" Emma's eyes flickered to Maria before looking away. She nodded once. "Good. Sit," Betty ordered. Emma shuffled to the table, sliding into a chair as far from Maria as she could get. Maria felt the distance like a knife. They ate in silence at first. Betty filled the air with talk about the diner, about Lucas getting the delivery truck stuck in the alley again. Eventually, Emma picked up her food. Her voice was small. "Mama?" Maria's heart stopped. "Yeah, baby." Emma didn't look up. "Why didn't you tell me?" Maria swallowed. She felt every eye in the room on her, even Betty's. She took a breath. "Because I was scared. Because they made me feel like you'd be better off not knowing. Because I didn't want you to hate me for what I did." Emma's lip trembled. "You took the money." Maria felt her cheeks burn. "Yes." Emma finally looked at her. Those eyes were a hurricane. "You let him buy you." Maria flinched. She forced herself not to look away. "I let him buy my silence. I thought I was protecting you. I thought it was the only way." Emma's voice cracked. "You were wrong." Maria nodded. I know. The silence was thick, heavy. Betty cleared her throat. Well, hell of a family therapy session. Emma let out a tiny broken laugh. Maria's heart leaped at the sound. Betty pointed her fork at Emma. You're allowed to be mad, but don't you dare think your mama did any of this because she didn't love you. She loves you more than her own damn life. Emma's eyes shone with tears. Maria's voice broke. It's true. Emma finally let out a sob. Maria didn't wait. She moved around the table and wrapped herself up. Emma fought her for a moment, hitting her shoulder with tiny fists. Then she clung to her, sobbing into her chest. Maria held her as tightly as she could. Betty sniffed. Well, now I'm crying too. Damn it. They stayed like that until the food went cold. Later that night, after Betty left, Maria sat with Emma on their sagging couch. Emma's head rested on her lap. Maria ran her fingers through her hair. The window rattled with the wind. A storm was coming, just like in Charleston. Emma's voice was quiet. Will he come here? Maria's chest tightened. Maybe. Will you let him in? Maria swallowed hard. That's not up to me. It's up to you. Emma was silent for a long time. Then, I don't think I want to see him. Maria bent down, kissed the crown of her head. Then you don't have to. Outside, thunder rolled. Maria held her daughter and promised herself she would never lie to her again. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but she'd face it. For Emma. For herself. It had rained all night after they came home from Charleston. The next morning, the world smelled of wet dirt and sour asphalt, the streets streaked with mud and fallen leaves. Maria stood at the kitchen sink, watching rivulets of water snake down the cracked window. She held a chipped mug of black coffee that had long since gone cold. Behind her, Emma sat at the table. The girl's eyes were ringed with exhaustion, her hair tangled from tossing in her sleep. She traced circles on the cheap laminate with one finger. Maria watched her reflection in the window. She saw the worry lines carved deep around her mouth. She didn't recognize herself anymore. Eat something, Maria said gently. Emma didn't look up. Not hungry, Maria sighed. She turned away from the window and sat across from her. She reached for Emma's hand, but the girl pulled back. The rejection hit like a slap. Maria clenched her teeth. She refused to cry. The knock on the door startled them both. 3 quick raps, a pause, then another. Maria knew that pattern. She closed her eyes for a heartbeat. Emma looked at her sharply. Who is that? Maria didn't answer. She stood and wiped her palms on her jeans. The knock came again. Harder this time. Emma's voice rose. Who is it? Maria opened the door before she could lose her nerve. Dylan Hartford stood on the landing, rain plastering his dark hair to his forehead. He wore yesterday's clothes, wrinkled and stained, the tie gone, top button open. His eyes were bloodshot. He looked like hell. Maria swallowed. What are you doing here? He looked past her, straight at Emma. His voice cracked. I need to talk to you. Maria blocked the doorway. You're not going to hurt her again. Dylan shook his head frantically. I don't want to hurt her. Please. Emma's voice was a whisper. Let him in. Maria turned to her. Emma's eyes were wet but fierce. She nodded once. Maria stepped aside. Dylan entered slowly, as if crossing a threshold into fire. He didn't sit. He stood in the middle of the tiny living room, dripping onto the warped floorboards. The silence was thick. Dylan cleared his throat. I'm sorry, Emma flinched. For what? He swallowed. His jaw worked. For everything. For not knowing. For not asking. For letting them tell me lies about you. About her. Maria felt her breath hitch. She held it. Emma's lip quivered. You were there. You were my brother, even before I knew it. You watched them make her leave. Dylan's voice broke. I was 4. I didn't know. I just remember waking up and you were gone. He turned to Maria, eyes pleading. You were my mother, too. You were the only one who held me when I had nightmares, and I let them erase you. Maria clenched her fists. You were a child. Don't you dare blame yourself for their choices. Dylan shook his head. Tears tracked down his face, mixing with the rain on his skin. But I'm not a child now. He turned to Emma again. I'm your brother, and I want you to know me. I want to know you, if you'll let me. Emma sat frozen. Her hands were tight in her lap. She shook her head once, hard. I don't know you. The word sliced. Dylan recoiled like he'd been hit. Maria almost moved to him. Almost. But she stayed by Emma. Dylan wiped his face. His voice was ragged. I get it. You shouldn't trust me. But I'm not leaving until I tell you the truth. He drew in a shuddering breath. I canceled the honeymoon, he said quietly. Annabelle left. She couldn't deal with it. My parents lied to both of us. She didn't want any part of this. Maria felt a pang. She remembered Annabelle's searching eyes. Dylan's voice dropped. The wedding's over. The life I thought I had is over. Because I couldn't stand there and keep lying. Emma's eyes were glassy. She blinked rapidly. Dylan stepped forward. He knelt so they were eye to eye. He didn't try to touch her. Emma, he said softly, you don't owe me anything, but I owe you the truth. You're my sister. That's real, even if everything else was fake. Emma's breath hitched. Dylan lowered his head. His shoulders trembled. I'm sorry they hurt you. I'm sorry they hurt her. I can't fix that, but I want to be better. I want to be your brother, even if it takes my whole damn life to prove it. The words filled the room like thunder. Maria felt her eyes sting. She reached out and grabbed the back of a chair to steady herself. Emma finally spoke. Her voice was paper thin. You didn't know. Dylan looked up. His eyes were raw. I swear, I would have stopped them. I would have fought for you. Emma's face crumpled. She launched herself at him. Dylan caught her. He held her so gently that Maria thought she might shatter. They both shook with sobs. Maria covered her mouth. She turned away, giving them space, but she couldn't stop listening. I hate them, Emma sobbed into Dylan's shoulder. I know, he choked. Me too. Maria clenched her jaw. She forced herself to turn back. She stepped forward, laying a hand on Emma's back. She met Dylan's eyes. We can't erase it, she said roughly. Dylan nodded. His voice was iron. But we can make something better. They sat there, the three of them tangled on the floor of Maria's tiny living room, while the storm outside raged and the wind rattled the windows. After a while, they separated. Dylan wiped Emma's tears with his sleeve. He turned to Maria. I'm staying in town, he said hoarsely. I can't go back there. Not now. I don't want to be them. Maria swallowed. You don't have to. He nodded. I'll get a place, a job, anything. I want to be here. For her. For you. Maria watched him. The boy she'd once rocked to sleep was gone. This man in front of her was broken and raw, but trying. Okay, she said quietly. But you understand. This is on our terms now. Dylan met her gaze, his jaw set. Yes, yours. Emma's fingers twisted in Maria's sleeve. She didn't speak. Dylan turned to her again. You don't have to decide now. I'll wait, however long it takes. Emma didn't look at him, but she didn't pull away. They all sat in silence, the only sound the wind moaning through the cracked window. After a while, Dylan stood. I'll come back tomorrow, if that's okay. Maria nodded once. He looked at Emma. His voice shook. I love you, even if you don't want me to. Emma blinked at him. Her mouth opened, then closed. She just nodded. He left without another word. Maria closed the door gently behind him. She turned to Emma. The girl's face was blotchy, eyes were swollen. Are you okay? Maria asked softly. Emma shook her head. No. Maria felt her heart crack again, but she just pulled Emma in. That's okay, she whispered into her hair. We don't have to be okay yet. We just have to be here. Emma clung to her. Outside, the storm rolled on. The community center smelled of dust and old varnish. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, buzzing in the quiet. Rows of metal folding chairs filled the hall, occupied by neighbors in faded jeans, Sunday dresses, and baseball caps. Maria stood at the front, palms sweating, heart thundering. She had agreed to this. She had said yes when Pastor James suggested it. A meeting, he called it, a chance to tell the truth in her own words. Now everyone was here. The same people who tipped her at the diner, who whispered behind her back, who had read the headlines after Charleston. Emma sat in the front row, arms crossed tight, eyes locked on the floor. Dylan was next to her, jaw set, hands clasped until the knuckles were white. Betty stood at the side, arms folded, glaring at anyone who dared mutter. Pastor James, kind-eyed, stood beside Maria, clearing his throat into the mic. Folk, he began, we're here tonight to listen, to give space for truth and healing. Let's give Maria the respect she deserves. He stepped back. The silence was heavy. Maria's fingers trembled around the mic. She exhaled. My name is Maria Thompson, she said. Her voice cracked, but she didn't stop. I think most of you know me. I wait tables at Dixie's. I'm Emma's mother. No one spoke. She swallowed. She felt her chest tighten. I've lived here 12 years, paid rent, paid taxes, watched your kids when you needed help, and I've lied every single day. A ripple moved through the crowd. She saw the shifting in seats, the curiosity, the discomfort. She pressed on. I lied about Emma's father. I told her I didn't know who he was, that he was no one, because it was easier than the truth, because I was ashamed. Her voice wavered. She blinked fast. The truth is he's a Hartford, one of those Hartfords, old money, big house in Charleston. And when I told him I was pregnant, he paid me $50,000 to disappear. Gasps, whispers. Emma flinched but didn't look up. Dylan's jaw ticked. Maria's voice hardened. I took the money. Don't you dare think I'm claiming to be some saint. I was broke, alone, scared. They told me Emma would ruin everything for them, that she'd be an embarrassment, that she didn't belong. Her eyes swept the room. Sound familiar? A man in the back cleared his throat uncomfortably. Maria didn't stop. I left. I raised her alone. I changed our name. I thought I was protecting her. Turns out I was teaching her to lie, teaching her she wasn't worth the truth. She felt tears spill. She wiped them with the back of her hand, refusing to sob. Last week I went to Charleston. They invited us to a wedding, thought they'd show us our place. Instead, I let Emma stand there in front of 500 people and ask her father why he didn't want her. Voices rose. Shock, sympathy, disgust. Maria's spine stiffened. He admitted it, in front of everyone, that he paid to keep her a secret, that they all knew, and my daughter heard it. My baby heard that she was worth less than their reputation. Her voice broke. But she also heard me say enough. I told them we exist, that we're not going to hide anymore. She squeezed the mic, knuckles white. I'm not telling you this to get pity. Don't you dare pity me. I'm telling you because you all deserve the truth, because I won't let Emma think we're ashamed. Her voice dropped. Because the truth is the only thing I have left to give her. Silence. For a moment, no one moved. Then Pastor James stepped forward. He rested a hand on her shoulder. Thank you, Maria. His voice was thick. A woman in the second row wiped her eyes. Betty clapped once, loudly. It echoed. She clapped again. Others joined in, halting, awkward, but real. Maria exhaled, shaking. She lowered the mic. She looked at Emma. The girl's eyes were full of tears, but she was standing now. She walked forward, slow, stiff, and wrapped her arms around her mother's waist. Maria dropped the mic and clutched her, burying her face in Emma's hair. They stood like that while the applause died. When Maria finally pulled back, she kissed Emma's forehead. I'm sorry, she whispered. Emma sniffed. Her voice was small. Don't lie anymore. Maria nodded. Never again. Dylan approached them. He was pale with red eyes. He rested a hand on Emma's shoulder. I'm here, he said. Emma hesitated. Then she let him pull her into a hug. Maria wiped her face. Pastor James cleared his throat. Anyone else wish to speak? Silence. Betty pushed forward. She didn't take the mic. She just pointed at Maria. She's a better woman than half of y'all, she snapped. And if any of you try to make that girl feel less than ever again, you'll answer to me. Nervous laughter. Maria let out a shaky breath. Outside, thunder rolled again. The wind rattled the windows. Emma looked up. Can we go home? Maria nodded. Yes, baby. We're going home. She turned to Pastor James. Thank you. He gave her a solemn nod. Dylan followed them out. As they stepped into the wind, Maria felt the chill hit her sweat-soaked dress. She pulled Emma close. Dylan walked a step behind, like a silent guardian. The streetlights flickered in the gusting wind. Water pooled in the gutters. The world smelled clean, scoured raw. Maria sucked in a lungful of cold air. She felt her heart pound in her ribs. She was shaking, but she was standing. She glanced at Emma. The girl's face was pale but steady. They didn't speak all the way home, but Maria felt Emma's hand in hers. That was enough. The morning air was warm already, the sun blazing in a clear blue sky that seemed too wide, too honest to hide anything. Maria stood in front of the little storefront on Main Street, keys in her trembling hand. She swallowed hard. The sign over the door read, Maria's Corner Bakery, the letters hand-painted by Betty in bright, stubborn red. It was a lie for now. There was no bakery yet, just an empty shell with raw walls and dusty windows. But Maria had the lease in her name. She inhaled flour, sugar, coffee. She imagined the smells that would one day fill this space. She could see the counter that Betty promised to help her build. She could see Emma behind the register, pretending to hate it while secretly watching everything. She heard the bell jangle behind her. Betty arrived first, wiping her brow with a bandana and hauling a sack of flour over one shoulder. "Don't just stand there, girl," she barked. "You're open for business." Maria let out a shaky laugh. She unlocked the door. The smell of sawdust and old paint hit her as she stepped inside. Sunlight streamed through the high windows, showing every flaw. The cracked floor, the scuffed walls. But to Maria, it looked like freedom. Betty dumped the flour on the counter that wasn't a counter yet, just plywood on sawhorses. She planted her hands on her hips. "We'll need to clean, paint, seal up that damn hole in the floor so Emma doesn't fall in and break her neck." Maria nodded. She forced her voice to work. "I can do that." Betty gave her a look. "You're not alone. Don't be stupid." Maria blinked hard. She let out a breath. "Okay." The bell rang again. Emma slipped in, head down. She wore her old denim jacket, her hair in a braid. She didn't speak. Maria's stomach twisted. "Hey!" Emma didn't look up, but she stepped further inside, dragging her school backpack behind her. Betty made a point of ignoring the tension. She bustled around, measuring with an old yardstick, talking about counters and ovens. Maria swallowed. She walked over and knelt in front of Emma. "Baby." Emma shifted. Maria's voice cracked. "This is for you, for us, so we don't have to run anymore." Emma's eyes flicked up at last. They were wet but angry too. "I didn't ask for it." Maria flinched. She forced herself not to cry. "I know." Emma wiped her eyes with her sleeve. She glanced around the empty room. "Is it going to work?" Maria's throat closed. She forced the words out. "If we make it work." Emma sniffed. She shrugged. Betty clapped her hands. "All right, enough moping. I got a mop, a bucket, and Maria's got paint. You gonna help or you gonna sulk?" Emma blinked at her, startled. Betty raised an eyebrow. "Don't make me repeat myself." Maria bit back a laugh. Emma let out a tiny snort. She dropped her bag. "Fine," she muttered. Betty winked at Maria. They spent hours cleaning. Emma mopped with savage intensity, glaring at dirt as if it had personally betrayed her. Betty directed traffic, making lists of what they needed, threatening to call in Lucas with his truck for the heavy lifting. Maria scrubbed until her fingers were raw. She didn't care. She felt the sweat run down her back, felt the ache in her knees. She welcomed it. In the afternoon, the door opened again. Dylan stepped inside, hesitating. He wore jeans and an old t-shirt. He carried a big paper bag from the grocery store. He cleared his throat. "I brought sandwiches and juice." Emma froze. Maria looked at her daughter. "Okay?" Emma's jaw worked. Then she nodded once. Dylan let out a breath like he'd been underwater. He set the bag down. "I can help. I'm not useless." Betty snorted. "That's debatable, but you can mop." Dylan cracked a smile, small but real. He picked up the second mop. They worked in silence at first, the only sounds the scrape of mops and the creak of the old floor. Slowly, conversation picked up. Betty nagged Dylan about holding the mop wrong. Emma corrected her mother on how to tape trim before painting. Maria watched them, her family, cobbled together, broken, mending anyway. When the sun set, they sat on the floor eating sandwiches. The room smelled of bleach and paint primer. Emma leaned against Maria's side. Her voice was sleepy. Mama? Yeah, baby? Emma yawned. It's not awful. Maria choked on a laugh. She kissed the top of Emma's head. Dylan grinned. High praise. Betty swatted him with her napkin. The laughter that filled the room was hoarse, fragile, but real. Later, when they locked up, Maria turned and looked at the sign one last time. Maria's Corner Bakery. She felt something deep in her chest. Not pride, not yet, but hope. Outside, the night was cool. The stars were out. Dylan slung his arm around Emma's shoulders carefully, like she was made of glass. She didn't shake him off. Betty yanked Maria into a one-armed hug. You did well today, Maria swallowed. Her voice was barely a whisper. We did. Betty squeezed harder. Maria looked at her daughter, at Dylan, at the battered bright sign. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. She knew there would be judgment, gossip, maybe failure. But she also knew one thing. They wouldn't hide again. She took Emma's hand. Dylan walked beside them. Betty followed, muttering about old knees and bad lighting. They went home together. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to hear what you think. What would you have done in Maria's place? Do you think family can truly heal after so many secrets? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let us know where you're listening from. Your support means everything. Stay tuned for more stories of truth, resilience, and the messy, beautiful fight to claim our own lives. Until next time, take care and see you soon.